program. Amherst Neighbors has about two programs a month on topics that we think will be of meaningful to our members. And one of the things that I'm on the program committee, and one of the things that we do on the program committee is we just scour the newspapers and we look around for speakers that might be interesting for our membership. And there was a wonderful article in the Daily Hampshire Gazette about Kitty, and about her learning to play the viola da gamba, and as she gets older, trying something new. And this just said to me, this is right up the alley of Amherst Neighbors. This is what keeps us young. This is what keeps us going. So it didn't take me but, 1 minute to find Kitty's phone number online. I called her up and she said, "Oh, I'm a member of Amherst Neighbors." She knew all about us. And so I said, "There, we're ready to go." And she's agreed to do this reading. The format of the reading will be that Kitty's going to read for about 45 minutes, and she's going to talk about, she's going to have several different excerpts from her book. She'll talk about them a little bit. I'm going to read to you the biography that uh, Kitty sent to me, and it's quite, and this is the very, very short biography. There is a much longer one that goes into her journalistic career and everything that she's done, but this is just a synopsis. And if you want to Google her, you can find out much about her life's accomplishments. So Kitty Burns Florey is the author of 15 novels and two works of nonfiction. Despite late onset writer's block, quote unquote, she was inspired to write one more book when she began learning to play the viola da gamba, a string instrument that dates back to the 15th century. Part memoir, part how to guide, part meditation on aging and time, The Music of 80, Learning in Old Age, is a charming and mostly light-hearted look at music, memory, cemeteries, friendship, writing, cats, dogs, the upside of downsizing, and the downside of technology, and as you will hear from her reading, much more. So on behalf of Amherst Neighbors, I'd like to welcome you, Kitty. And the format will be she's going to read. Please do not ask questions or interrupt, but there will be plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. We'll make sure of that, and I'm sure there'll be plenty. So, Kitty, you want to take the stage?
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
everybody, please
Cindy.
mute yourself. And Carolina can, if for some reason you become unmute, Carolina can also mute you. We'd like to respect Kitty's time. Kitty, take it over.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for inviting me, Sandy. And I just want to say that biography was not written by me. I would never call my book charming or whatever other thing it said. It's from the jacket copy on the back that my editor wrote. So anyway, before I start reading, I just want to say a few things by way of introduction. I've now been playing the gamba for more than 2 years, but I wrote most of this book when I was a beginner, struggling to master the basics like holding the bow correctly, getting comfortable with the fingerboard, learning what to do with my left thumb, and hardest of all, bowing one string at a time, which is extremely difficult on this instrument. Some of these are still problematic. At my last lesson a couple of weeks ago, my teacher had a lot to say about thumb placement. I still, after 2 years, do not have it down. But inevitably, I've improved over the years, though honestly, not very much. I'm going to play a very short piece at some point, so you'll see what I mean. But for now, I'll just read from the book, some of which is about playing the gamba, but most of it is about being old, a subject on which I think I have a certain amount of expertise. So this is from almost the beginning. The first chapter is called Regrets. At age 80, I began learning to play the viola da gamba. I had been thinking about regret, which people my age do, sometimes obsessively. The media, the library, the internet, the very air we breathe, everywhere we look, we find old people being cautioned, don't look back. The wording has evolved. The poetic carpe diem has given way to the blunt practice mindfulness. But the message is the same. It's unhealthy to dwell on the past. Live for today. Accept your life, which has made you your totally wonderful old self. Regret rien. Excellent advice, but how many people actually take it? In the lulls between chair yoga and pickleball and book clubs, we tend to think a lot about our enormous lives. 70 years, 80 years. My God, that's a long time. And what have we got to show for it? That's where regret starts to creep in. No one knows better than an octogenarian that the past is never dead, it's not even past, as we are often reminded. And suddenly you realize it's what your life is mostly made up of. That's it? Yep. There's not going to be a whole lot more. So the regrets pile up. Mine range from the hugely significant, wrong priorities, imprudent decisions, misplaced endurance, comfort not given, to the mildly foolish, rants I shouldn't have ranted, trips I was too cheap to take, opportunities I was too timid to pursue, to the sniveling, how many miles I used to be able to walk, how fast I could run up a flight of stairs, what pretty hands I had. I didn't go to that idyllic writers' colony in Ireland. I didn't write a best-selling novel. I never kept a pet rat. I didn't get to live in France. I never raised a flock of barred Plymouth rocks or took voice lessons or walked the Appalachian Trail or read Finnegan's Wake or sheared a sheep. The list could go on for half a page at least. For the moment, 3 is enough. 1, I never learned to waltz. 2, I never built my own house. And this is where I'll finally meander around to my main theme. I never learned to play the cello. I'll skip the waltzing and the house building parts. We don't have time for them. So, not playing the cello. Technically, I can't say I've never played a stringed instrument. When I was 9, I got a plastic Arthur Godfrey ukulele for Christmas. 4 strings. My dog has fleas. It's not a beautiful sound, but it's easy to play. Frere Jacques, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. What more could one ask? At least for 6 months, maybe 3. When I got tired of the uke, it was passed on like my winter coats to one of my younger cousins, who no doubt did the same. No cousin of mine ever became a ukulele virtuoso, until some clumsy uncle or monster dog sat on it and ended its putative usefulness. A few years later in college, like most people in my age group, I learned to play the guitar. That is, to strum Michael Row the Boat Ashore and Kumbaya. My totally cool friend Suzanne taught me a debased version of the Carter family picking style. I found a soulful photograph of me with long hair and guitar, looking rather romantic, but sounding, believe me, pathetic. And I have reproduced that in the book. Neither of these faddish instruments was my musical destiny. That was the piano. I do not come from a musical family. I never heard my father sing except for the hymns at Mass. My mother could pick out tunes by ear on the piano and had a strong soprano. She sang around the house and in the church choir. She never learned to read music. If the notes go down, your voice goes down. If they go up, you go up. That was the extent of Ma's music theory. I began piano lessons at age 7 because they were available at my school. Sister Cecilia offered them for 25 cents, which even my family could afford. My mother had had an impoverished childhood at the hands of, to say the least, unsupportive parents, and she wanted more for her daughter and only child. Some relative gave us an old Kimball upright, and we crammed it into our tiny living room. Its music stand held one volume after another of John Thompson's modern course for the piano, handsome red books that promised something new every lesson. At the beginning of each year, my fantasy life kicked in. I'd flip through the pages, imagining myself mastering mountain climbing and Little Spring Song, the frog chorus with crossed hands, and a dramatically simplified Brahms waltz, wowing my parents, the envy of my friends. In reality, as time went by and I graduated out of John Thompson and began playing Chopin and Beethoven, it became obvious that I was only an average pianist, far from a prodigy, too lazy and clueless even to compensate by over-practicing, a daydreamer, a girl whose activity of choice was always to curl up somewhere with a book and the cat. If I was in the mood and didn't have to work too hard, I enjoyed playing, but mostly the idea of it was what I liked rather than putting in the effort to improve. I finally gave up piano lessons in 9th grade, a few years after nice Sister Cecilia retired and was replaced by Sister Anne, who was famous for being beautiful. a popular theory in our school. This is a footnote. I have these little side notes along the edges of the book, quite a lot of them, because I like to digress. A popular theory in our school was that Sister Anne was the victim of a tragic romance that had driven her in despair into the convent, and she took out her frustrations on us kids. Freed from lessons, I played the old Kimball for pleasure, an easy sonata or two, blockbuster kitsch like the Warsaw Concerto, angsty pop hits like Unchained Melody and A Rose and a Baby Ruth that my friends used to gather around the piano and sing. As an adult, I acquired a beautiful and resonant Emerson upright piano, a splendid instrument that I loved to play. From time to time, I resumed lessons, 2 years here, a couple of months there, a year with a pianist friend who tried vainly to teach me to play jazz. And finally, a few wild years with Helen Shafranek, an ancient and venerated teacher who told me in her raspy Russian accent, "You'll never play at Carnegie Hall, but I'm going to teach you as if you're going to play at Carnegie Hall." In other words, she was going to torture me so far beyond my capacity that I broke out in a cold sweat every time I entered her studio. I was an unremitting disappointment to both of us. She was my last teacher. Over the years, as I developed a fondness for chamber music in general and string quartets in particular, it was the cello's sonorous depth that I especially loved. I was a Suzuki parent and accompanist for my daughter's 7 years with the violin, vaguely wishing she had chosen cello instead, occasionally thinking about taking cello lessons myself. But that felt too demanding, too difficult, and I was too old to start a new instrument. I would just be setting myself up for failure. Then I got so old that trying what you were probably going to fail at didn't look all that disagreeable. Gradually, as I made my way through my 70s, my motto, such as it was, became, "Who cares?" followed closely by, "So what?" This seemed like the proper frame of mind for branching out and trying something I'd never done before. Probably because the population of aged Americans is growing with rather frightening speed, we are flooded with information about how to fend off that cruelest scourge of old age, dementia. The trick, they say, is to take up a new venture. That's the best exercise for your ancient brain. Learning a foreign language always tops the list, followed by learning a musical instrument. I've dabbled in languages all my life, starting with high school Latin, and have ended up with semi-serviceable French, once almost usable but now mostly lost Italian, a smattering of Spanish picked up on the subway and on trips to Mexico, and almost no German despite earnest attempts to learn it during a short stay in Berlin. I would gladly learn another language, except that you don't have to suffer from serious age-related cognitive problems to have a rotten memory. The sad fact is that older people have trouble remembering easy stuff. Like, what is that woman's name? I know it starts with an M. Much less verb tenses and vocabulary. I tried Duolingo, of course, hoping to brush up my Italian, but memorization was no less an issue. Maybe it's me. We hear about masses of happy Italian speakers who got there thanks to Duolingo or its kinfolk, but I knew the only way I'd become a fluent speaker of an Italian was to have moved to Firenze 20 years ago and spoken it on a daily basis. But a musical instrument, for me anyway, that made more sense. At least I knew how to read music. I let the idea rattle around in my head for a while, not even thinking about what instrument I might play. Then I was having dinner one evening with a friend who plays the gamba. I found myself saying, "One of my big regrets is that I've never taken cello lessons." When instead of telling me to quit whining, he replied, "You should learn to play the gamba." I sat up straighter. I had heard him play. I'd been to a couple of early music concerts. I had a Jordi Savall CD, but playing it myself, it was almost a joke. But not quite, maybe. Somehow the notion took hold. The viola da gamba is the cello's ancestor, a couple of centuries older, but tuned, stringed, and played differently. "It's easier to learn than the cello," said my gamba playing friend. "Not easy," he hastened to add, "just easier." The more I thought about it, the more the romance of playing that ancient instrument became irresistible. And we'll move from the actual playing of the gamba to just some stuff. Part of a section of this book is called "How to Be Old." and it's divided into sections. This section, which is sections that are recommendations that I have for how to be old, is do not over downsize. When I imagine being dead, it starts with an epigraph. Why love what you will lose? There is nothing else to love. From a poem by Louise Glück, who won the Nobel Prize a few years ago, The Triumph of Achilles. It's a wonderful poem. When I imagine being dead, what puts me in a pother is the fate of my possessions. Over the years, I've whittled them down to the minimum, what I really need. I admire Thoreau, but he and I would never agree on what one needs for living deliberately. For him, the answer was not much more than a bed and a chair, a bowl and a spoon, at least for the 2 years and 2 months he inhabited his famous cabin. For me, the necessities of life include a wooden sculpture of a black crow I bought for $15 at a flea market in 1990. You have to admit he is very beautiful and an incredible bargain, and I will never give him up. A collection of stones, one of which reminds me of my older granddaughter, an old wooden armchair with a rushed seat rescued from my first mother-in-law's attic, a box of postcards spanning 50 years, the carbon steel chef's knife I acquired in 1967 when I was learning to cook, watching Julia Child's TV shows. I feel confident that I've fulfilled William Morris's famous dictum, as stringent in its way as Thoreau's, that we should own nothing that we don't consider to be beautiful and or know to be useful. Thoreau, that killjoy, would have stopped at useful. Always remembering that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I admit that my carnival glass dish and the winsome tin dog fashioned from an oil can wouldn't be seen as beautiful by everyone. But there's another category of worth that Morris didn't take into consideration. Objects that are not beautiful and are far from useful, but that connect us to the past and therefore have value. Why do we need to connect to the past? And at what age do we realize that necessity? For me, it started very young. The photo albums my mother kept were black pages with photos pasted in at their corners with black triangles, their subjects identified in white ink. Ma and I would sit on the sofa together, an album opened out on our laps, and I would turn the pages. Her running commentary was always interesting to me. This was taken when your father was home on leave before he shipped out. It was so hard to let him go. There you are on your tricycle in the Victory Garden I planted when we lived on Grumback Avenue. There's Aunt Mina with her new glasses. She needed glasses for years before there was enough money to get them for her. I adored that dress. I got it at Filene's. Look, there's you sitting on Tommy Martin's horse, Timmy. You used to love going over there to play. I felt a kind of urgency about this ritual. These were things I needed to know. An only child who was alone a lot, I needed to situate our tiny family within the larger family unit and then within the world. The panorama of aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, neighbors, my parents' friends, my friends from school, cats and dogs and parakeets, the background of houses and old cars with running boards, the images of these people, my mother's memories and my own, they all added up to the story of my own life. I still have my mother's albums, though I hardly need to look at the photographs. Having forgotten so much from last week or last month, I keep Mina's glasses and Timmy the horse, bright and intact, stored neatly away where such vital information continues to live. Thoreau would tell me I have too much crap. I would respond, give me some credit, Henry, I don't even have a TV. But Thoreau would just sit there muttering, simplify, simplify. There have been absolutely times when I did have too much crap, but for years I've been a committed simplifier, a winnower. If you move around a lot, you find yourself thinking, I'm going to pay someone to move this thing. With every move, my standards altered. Will I ever use this sequined evening bag again? And my expectations got adjusted. I really need a punch bowl, a cake stand, a bag of wooden clothespins. When my second husband and I sold our 8-room house in Connecticut, we relied on Craigslist, eBay, Goodwill, the neighbors, and a secondhand bookstore that had just opened and needed stock. 10 years later, I moved from a smallish apartment to the largest condominium where I now live and expect to spend the rest of my days. And still I found things I could ditch. But there was also stuff I couldn't bear to see the last of, lots of it. And I made room. I had to. It is the book of my history. I wouldn't be myself without it. Thoreau would ask, what's the point of that stupid eggshell thing? I won't explain this to him. I would tell him about how I glued down all those fragments and how much I like the way it looks. It's an old friend, like the porcupine skull with big curved incisors that I found in Schoharie County, New York State, or the piece of interestingly wormhole driftwood retrieved from San Francisco Bay. They remind me of things I like to be reminded of. They make me happy. They're part of my life story. I've done plenty of simplifying, but while I'm alive, damn it, this stuff isn't going anywhere. I haven't exactly measured out my life with coffee spoons. I'm just going to skip because this is a digression. What concerns me about this idiosyncratic, deeply personal, and much too large compendium of possessions is what will happen when I'm gone. My big fear is that none of my descendants will want any of it. They'll hire a dumpster and with merry abandon fling into it all these bits and pieces. My daughter swears they won't do that. But even if they don't toss everything, will they remember that the chef's knife can't go through the dishwasher and that the eggshell landscape is extremely fragile? Will they revere the wooden crow as they should? And what will become of my mother's milk glass chicken? This is the sort of thing that can keep me awake at night. There's a digression. The book is made up of chapters and digressions and side notes, and so there's a lot of distraction. I'm going to skip the digression on insomnia and go back. Is that right? Yes. Go back to, this is from another of my recommendations in How to Be Old, which is Think About Death. And it's a chapter called Wildwood. Older people who hold negative views about, there's a little epigraph. Older people who hold negative views about their own aging do not recover as well from disability and live on average 7.5 years less than people with positive attitudes. That says the World Health Organization. I want those 7.5 years, so I'm trying to cultivate a positive attitude, though I'm not sure how to define it in this case. Usually that means looking on the bright side, making the most of a bad situation, looking for the silver lining. I'm good at this, though if death has a silver lining, it's elusive, even for a Pollyanna like me. True, I'll no longer worry that I need a hip replacement or agonize over thumb placement on the gamba, but being dead seems a high price to pay. Though I'm seldom not conscious of it at some level, I do try to think more about living than about dying. After years of slavery to an alarm clock, I like to wake up slowly, to lie in bed looking at the sky and the trees outside my window, trying to guess what time it is and what the weather will be. At least as of this morning, I do wake up. Here I am again, I say to myself, slightly surprised and always thankful that I'm alive to see another day. For an optimist, I can be pessimistic, possibly the consequence of a childhood. My father died very young, spent expecting a beloved parent to die. My attitude toward death can be boiled down to a vast sadness about the world passing me by. Incredibly, it will go on without me in it, pretty much the way it went on with me in it. If I were still there to learn what it teaches, death would show me once and for all that I'm not the center of the universe, something that none of us quite believe. I'm not entirely free of the fear of death, or more accurately, of dying, but I try to cultivate a resigned philosophical attitude, even a kind of curiosity. It may help that I do not believe there is a God or an afterlife, so there's no dread of Judgment Day, the wrath of that God, the consignment to hell, etc. How interesting it would be if all that were true, but maybe not in a good way. Visiting cemeteries is comforting. Pleasant green places to walk, spending time with the bones of the dead. I've been an amateur taphophile, which means a cemetery fancier, a word I learned when I was writing this book, and it's related to epitaph. I've been an amateur taphophile most of my life, and I seek them out wherever I live. The last house I owned was 3 blocks from a graveyard dating from the early 18th century. but still in use. Now and then among the old crumbling stones, among the old crumbling stones, I'd see a recent grave like a wound adorned with fresh flowers. The centuries roll by and people keep dying, young and old, babies and grandparents, beloved mother, paterfamilias. Then comes from the fact that they are all of them, gone, whether gently or not, into that good night. Everyone dies. There are no exceptions. Every single person who has ever lived or will ever live ends up, more or less, in the ground. So, death, how bad could it be? As Seneca, the lawyer and Stoic, put it in one of his moral letters from 62, the Christian era, written to his friend Lucilius, you will go the way all things go. What is strange about that? The 81 acres of Amherst's beautiful wildwood cemetery are perfect for walking. In some areas, wild indeed, but otherwise well tended, though not manicured. Wildwood permits green burials, and that's where I intend to end up. Having gone through the, no exaggeration, horror when my mother died of choosing a casket, arranging for the wake, recoiling from the person on display in it, who, I don't know how the funeral home managed this, could be identified as mom only by her hair and her blue dress. I have no intention of putting what's left of me through the embalmment casket viewing process, at the end of which what used to be you ends up in what is basically an underground vault, where nature takes its course, as it always does, but very, very slowly. My highly conventional mother, whose Catholic faith was lifelong and unexamined, wanted a traditional burial, even left a special fund to pay for it. I respected her wishes, but all I could think of is, what's the point? As for cremation, having tried all these years to be environmentally conscientious, I can't swerve into irresponsibility just because I'm dead. Cremation produces as much carbon dioxide as a 600-mile car trip, plus carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, fine soot, and if you have dental fillings, mercury, which is particularly hazardous. And the ashes are too high in salt and pH to use in the garden. I will skip some other choices. At this point, it's green burial I'm committed to. A human body is cleverly made and well used, like a good book or an old toothbrush, and it should be recycled. I've left instructions for my survivors, including specifics about my choice of shroud, a blue and white Indian cotton bedspread I bought for $20 on 3rd Avenue in New York City in 1994. Maybe a flat stone set into the ground, name and dates, but not necessary. Green burial is legal in Massachusetts. There is local support, and even aside from ethical considerations, the tidiness and lack of fuss are appealing. A biodegradable container, Mother Nature with all her minions, and me. I hope this isn't too morbid. But one of the things I write about in the book is that I think at least when you're my age, it's important to think about it and be aware of it. Where was I? Lying awake, fretting about the fate of my cherished belongings. What I want to say is that I'm dealing with it. I'm coming to terms with the rather strong possibility that my grandchildren will not, in fact, be creating a museum where the paraphernalia of Nana's unremarkable life will be on display for generations to come. And I'm gradually reaching the point where I see that this is okay. Here's what I'm thinking. Each person is a little entity living in their own world with all its accoutrements, the beautiful and the useful and the totally nutty. We carry that world with us all our lives. It contains our experiences and memories and loves and hates and fears and scars and skills. It shifts and changes, but some things stay constant, making us happy with their familiarity and associations. Our goods and chattels, whatever persists after a lifetime of accidental loss and deliberate discarding. We were the actors. These were our props and sets and costumes. When we're gone, the play closes, and the sets and props may as well go too. A few of them might survive, going on to have new lives as part of someone else's world. But some might persist for a generation or two, and that's it. But it doesn't matter. They can exit. They've served their purpose. Shakespeare says the same thing more succinctly and, of course, eloquently in Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 5. Life's but a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. We're getting on for, let's see. I'll read a bit of this. Another one of my recommendations for how to be old is stare at the wall. In Joseph Heller's novel Catch-22, the character Dunbar famously tries to prolong his life by making it as boring as possible. Dunbar loved skeet shooting because he hated every minute of it, and the time passed so slowly. Of course, the predictable and proper response to that is it's quality of life, Dunbar, not quantity. And maybe wall gazing doesn't sound like quality time, but it is. Life races by so quickly you barely have time to assimilate it, no matter how quiet and uneventful it is. And this can be confusing. When I'm overwhelmed, I need to spend time sitting and looking at the wall. In the book, it's Fred the dog, but Fred has departed this life. And so now it's with Tasha the cat snoring on the couch beside me, although she doesn't really snore. Cats don't do that. Sitting on the couch, staring at the wall or looking out at the woods. There is often a buzzard or two wheeling overhead. And once I saw a sleek golden bobcat streak through. But I like the woods mostly because I like to look at trees. I mean, who doesn't? The way they change with the seasons, their complex choreography and a strong wind, and the variable skies behind them. Still, they're always the same, calm and dependable, providing a screen on which anything can be projected. I think it's true that as people get older, they stare at the wall more, or at a stand-in for the wall, maybe at a pleasing view, or just into space. In other words, they do nothing. If one of your equally ancient friends calls up and asks what you're doing and you say, not much, just staring at the wall, your friend knows what you mean and might say something like, I can relate, or at our age, we've earned the right to stare at the wall if we want to. But it's not the same as skeet shooting, and it's not doing nothing. It is not time torn off, unused. When you hit your 80s, you're too old to die young, to be cut down in your prime. In fact, it wouldn't surprise people if you died tomorrow, even if you're healthy, just because you've piled up all those years. Well, after all, she was no spring chicken. I try not to be troubled by the physical condition of being old, the saggy bits, the wrinkles, the falling out hair, the veiny hands like relief maps of an alien land. Those are the markers of old age that I'd seen in my mother and other old folks I've known. I was more or less prepared. It's the invisible indicators that are harder to deal with. My mother used to fret about continuing to have her hair dyed, should she or shouldn't she, and announced when she was in her mid-80s that she wasn't going to wear makeup anymore. I don't think it makes any difference, she said. But she never told me about fatigue. Not that she didn't sometimes say, I'm tired, or even, I'm so tired, meaning the kind of weariness that's relieved by putting your feet up or your head back. It was mental fatigue she never complained about, the kind that is relieved only by being alone with nothing you have to do, no place you need to go, no one you need to talk to. Maybe that loss of energy and the craving for peace that accompanies it is a preparation for death. Or maybe it means you haven't stared at the wall long enough. There's a little footnote. A National Lampoon parody of the Reader's Digest in 1974 included the article, Death, Nature's Way of Telling You to Slow Down. There seems to be so much to ponder and question and assimilate, but wall staring doesn't have to be accompanied by thinking. Sometimes just staring is enough. I'm not a meditator, but this is how people describe it. Just go blank, let your eyes glaze over and your mind wander. Pay attention to your breathing, let time pass. Think about what one of the astronauts in Samantha Harding's wonderful novel called Orbital, really a great novel, I recommend it. One of the astronauts in it says to herself as she stares into actual space from 250 miles up, Earth is a piddling speck in the center of nothing. Um, Scrolling through my memories, what I'm trying to do is understand my life, and out of the chaos of memory, find the patterns that reveal its underlying design. Then I can make it into a coherent story. This seems increasingly essential as the days dwindle down. It's like the small quilt I hand sewed many years ago, made of scraps of my daughter's baby clothes. Each square is part of a pattern that makes something useful. So, winding down here, what am I winding down with? Well, leave out the cats. Just at the end here, I'll just read the end of the book, and then I'm going to give a mercifully brief demonstration of my playing on the gamba. What nobody tells you about old age is the way your life can shrink. It's not so much that you can't do all the things you used to do, though of course there's that, but a kind of mental downsizing comes with the years. You ration not only your time and not only your energy, but your hopes and ambitions too. You know there are not enough days left for all the things you care about. And so, like your books and pots and pans and sock collection, you downsize them. What's left is what you need most. If I'd known it would be so hard to play this instrument, or that achieving even minimum competence would take so long, would I have begun? Probably not. But here I am, and there will be no downsizing when it comes to the gamba. I keep sawing away, rejoicing when it sounds okay, shrugging it off when it doesn't, trying again. What I'm striving for is less tangible than playing well. It's about relinquishing my perfectionist tendencies by working hard at something I can never be good at. The attempt is the achievement. It has taken me 80 years, now 82, of perfectionism, mild control freakiness, and good girlism to admit that it's permissible to fail. If I ever learned to play well, that would be lovely. For now, I take pleasure in the days when miraculously, as I play, the hopelessness and the doubt diminish and something resembling music takes over. So I will stop there and give you a demonstration of what this instrument looks like and what it sounds like. And honestly, don't think as a result of my playing that this is an instrument you would never want to go hear in a concert or buy a recording of, because it's beautiful and what you're going to hear now is not beautiful. I can never predict how badly or how well I'm going to play something. It's completely random. I'm going to play a short piece that I've been playing for at least a year, maybe more. And I never know whether it's going to sound okay or whether I'm going to completely screw it up. So bearing that in mind, I will move the computer.
Carolina, are you there?
I can
Yes, I'm
see.
here.
Okay. So I think she froze
Yeah, she froze.
when she went to move the laptop. Probably a button accidentally got hit. I'm
Mm.
assuming she'll
Oh,
sign
yeah,
back
she's
in.
coming back.
Okay.
I don't have her phone number.
No, I think she's back on, but not video. Kitty, we can see you're signed back in, but not we can't see you yet. And she's not muted. We appreciate the audience's patience as Kitty works her way back in. So Kitty's still signed in, but she's not able to verbally respond.
I
Kitty,
can see.
are you there?
Yes, I can see you. Can you see me?
Yeah, it looks like you're signed in twice. Hopefully,
Twice.
Oh, so I signed in again because this whole thing disappeared when I moved the computer like that.
Yeah, we saw that. Now, if you want to just hit your video button so we can see you.
Okay, we got you only once. Good.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have no idea how
I
to.
removed her. Like you will remove, I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay, good. So down to your lower left where your audio to mute is the next to it is your video button. And if you hit on that, we can see you.
Oh, right. Okay, so that is,
There you are.
Okay, you're back.
oh, God.
So
There's a little,
everybody should go back to speaker view and you'll be able to see her. All we can see is your head, Kitty.
no, I'm gonna fix that.
Okay, good.
Hope this doesn't, hope this doesn't, make this go away again.
There you go.
Okay,
We
so
got you.
about me and the gamba. So, I'll go back a little further. So you can see it.
Yep.
The gamba, it's truly beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I hold it between my knees, unlike a cello, which has a pin on the bottom that touches the floor. So you don't have to hold it. You hold this between your knees, and I have this plastic, the kind of stuff you put under a rug
Hmm.
to hold it steady. And I have rosin the bow. I've tuned the gamba. It'll be okay. So I'll just play this little ditty. It's a Thomas Tallis piece from, I believe, the 16th century. Yeah. Okay.
No clue why we cannot hear any music.
We cannot hear you.
Really?
We can hear you speak, but when you're putting that to bow to string, there is no sound. Isn't that
How could that be?
well, you've got me mystified.
That means I don't have to play, but I can show it to you.
Yeah,
Can you hear this?
yes,
Yeah, we can hear that.
But not the bow.
Well,
not the
try it
bow.
again. We hear it now.
You can hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. You know, in the book, I have a rant about technology. It just can drive you crazy. It's happening before our eyes. All right.
Sorry, we can't hear. We can't hear it. We can hear it when you pluck it, but for whatever reason, the bow sound is not coming through. That is bizarre.
You can't hear even lower or,
I think we do hear lower.
well, unfortunately, I'm not playing anything. Okay, so I will just, plucking it, of course, it sounds lovely, but it's a really beautiful instrument. Take my word for it. I'm really relieved that you can't hear me, so I don't have to play because it's not great. So anyway, there it is. There is the beautiful gamba. There is my beautiful bow. Yeah, no, that's it. All these things are talked about in the book a lot more than I talked about them in the reading. So I try not to make it too technical when I write about the gamba but you know, there is a longish chapter about my learning to play it and my inability to get very much better. So I'm going to move this again, and let's hope it doesn't. Did I just disappear? No.
No,
No,
you're
you're
still
good.
there.
Okay.
Still, you're good. We can move to the Q&A and let folks
Yes,
engage.
I would like that very much.
Yeah.
So it would be helpful if people can show yourselves. And if you have a question or a comment, you can either raise your hand or use the icon, the raised hand. I think I would just like to start off the conversation by saying that so much of what you said resonated, with everything I've been thinking about. especially the downsizing and legacy and what we're keeping. And I really appreciate how spot on you were with the way you kind of are looking at the world. That makes it very relatable, I think, to all of us. And I thank you so much, for that. It was just
But
a pleasure
if you
listening
don't
to
think
you.
about it, you should think about it,
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So if anybody wants to make a question or comment, just raise your hand and put the icon up, and we'll be looking for you. Larry?
So I'll just kick off with some reactions that I have, and hopefully end it with a question. Um, First of all, I really enjoyed your reading a lot. You very subtly hit on some profound comments or questions that I think we all are thinking about. You said, "What do we have to show for it?" It seems like such a simple thing, but it's like, yeah, like that's kind of a pondering, look into the trees kind of question. And that then you said things I've never did, dot, dot, dot. Like we all have our own list of things that maybe we thought we would, but it's kind of good to ponder that. And of course, obviously that led your movement to learning a new instrument. I loved your discussion about possessions. How useful are they or how unimportant are they? And particularly, like, I don't think anybody's going to want my possessions. Like, we've got an attic full of possessions, thinking, our offspring want it. They don't want any of it. So, you're making us think a lot about. And I loved your question, death. How bad can it be?
Right.
I mean,
I do that when I go to a cemetery. Look at them all.
yeah.
So what?
So I guess, a functional question, because you really hit on a lot of important things about, in your case, okay, I'm 80. What do I do to stay vibrant, to have quality? As you said, I want quality, not quantity. Like, what, how, in sort of layperson's language, what have you gotten? What is that vibrancy that you've gotten from challenging yourself to learn this instrument?
I'm not sure what you mean. What?
How has it changed your life? How has it brought quality or vibrancy of life, into you by challenging yourself to take on something like this?
Well, I think it's, I used to practice every day diligently for an hour. I mean, for a long time I did that. Well, maybe 3 months. But I now practice almost every day, but not every day, and certainly not for an hour. But I do practice. I do have a lesson every couple of weeks. Um, Part of the book that I didn't read is about lying in bed in the morning, and you don't no longer have to get up to an alarm clock, most of us, I hope. And we just, wake up and get up when we need to get up or when we want to get up. And for me, before I wake up, I think, what do I have to look forward today? What are the good things that are going to happen today, if anything? I mean, sometimes it's just Wordle, but you hope that you hope that. So sometimes I just think I get to play the gamba today. I get to work on that piece that I've made such a hash of. Maybe I can work the C string a little better. Maybe my thumb position won't be so hopeless. And it gives me an impetus
Hmm.
to get up and live my life. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm a depressed person or anything like that. I don't need an impetus, but I don't know if you do this, but I sit there and I think, well, what good is going to happen today? Or is it just going to be a regular old pleasant but not very interesting day? But sometimes I think, well, I get to practice.
It,
So
it it's given you purpose, is what you
yeah,
said. Yeah.
it has also opened my eyes to a lot of music that I wasn't that familiar with. I've always liked early music, but now whenever I can go to a concert or I go to it, it's enlarged my musical tastes.
Okay, Jane.
Hi, Kitty. Thank you very much. I enjoyed your reading, and I wanted to tell you that I'm dreaming about the bassoon.
Do it, Dan, do it.
So I appreciated your comment, though. I tried playing the piano a lot a couple of years ago, And I just got really discouraged because I thought, I'm never going to be a good pianist. I mean, I played in the past, I could play for my students and stuff, but I'm just not that good. And that made me think, yeah, I don't
So
want to do it. But maybe I'll reconsider.
you're not going to try to play at Carnegie Hall. You're just playing for your
No,
own.
no, 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 of course not.
No,
It's
I
just,
mean, I'm
but
joking, but
if you've
you
been
don't have
good
to.
at one thing, you
Yeah.
don't want to be bad at another. So
But you
it's
might
anyway.
get better. I mean, I'm getting better at a really slow, depressing pace.
My
Not
mother,
depressing, at a
my
really slow.
mother at age 82 took up the piano, and it was great. It was really great.
I think so.
So
Yeah, I
we
write
had
in
a
my
good
book
time.
about this guy that I've corresponded with who took up the piano at age 80, and he wrote an essay in the Washington Post back when one was reading the Washington Post about how he let's not go there, right?
No.
He he there was a video attached to the article, so you could watch him if you read it online. You could watch him playing. And he played this at his recital. He was forced to be in a recital by his teacher with all these little kids.
Okay.
And the guy who was almost 80 years old at the time, and he played Old Man River. And believe me,
Oh.
it was excruciating. But he played it correctly, but just like bum, bum,
Bob,
bum. It was horrible.
Bob.
But he didn't care. He had never played the piano before. He loved it. He just loved it. And he didn't play because he was going to get really good. He played
Yeah.
because he enjoyed playing and got incrementally better.
Well, anyway, thank you. I enjoyed it very
You're
much.
welcome. I'm glad that you did.
Joy. Oh, Joy, you'll have to unmute on the lower left corner.
I enjoyed your book so much. It was so much fun to read all of your diversions and your experiences. And as your sort of new neighbor,
I'll be
I
three,
so
3 years in March.
I so appreciated to hear the twinkle that I saw at our yoga. It came through in the book.
We miss you, Yoga Joy. We miss you.
um, and it's just a lovely, lovely book. I plan to give it to my sister, my next sister, but she is avoiding old age, even though she's only 2 years younger than I am. I'm 80, and I don't think she could appreciate some of the glory that you and I have found in old age.
Yeah.
And
No, the
believe
book
me,
is
I have a tin
probably
ear, so I'm not taking up an instrument, but I like to listen to it. So
You seem
maybe
to
I'll come
enjoy
over
it.
and sit with your cat and listen to your practice.
Sure, you could do that. But yeah, no, I think you find plenty of ways to stay vibrant. So doesn't anybody think you have to take up a musical instrument? I'm not
Oh
recommending.
yes, there's no point for me. I lived with two guys who loved music, and I had to unload all of the second ones, multiple instruments. Thank goodness one of his musician friends helped deliver it to some guy in New Hampshire, and brought me back a few bucks. It was very sweet of him.
Very good. Yeah, sure. Well, good. Glad to hear that. And it's good to see you.
It is to see you as well. And I'm sorry I didn't hear you more because I'd love to hear the instrument.
No, you wouldn't. Get a CD at the
It doesn't matter. I
Mm.
lived with people who played, who tried to play new instruments, and I'm used to the squeaks or the squawks or the, whatever. Don't worry.
Okay, thanks. The strings can sound really bad when you're learning. I mean, like a piano is at least all you've got to do is press down the keys and you get the right note ideally. But
Right.
it's so tricky on the
Yes.
other difficulties
Yeah.
with the piano, as Jane was just saying. But yeah,
A friend of mine wanted to play cello. My last partner, and he found one on the road in Maine, and between them they had $65. And So they brought it home, and Jim had it repaired a bit. And he played, I took some lessons, and then started to play with the Holyoke Civic Symphony.
Mm.
But he put a piece of plastic across the strings so that he made no sound. But but he could play and learn to coordinate what he was learning with how things would sound. So
Very creative.
a smart man, but also wonderful to see you. It's a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judith, you have a question.
Yes, hi, thank you. And thank you for the pondering that I have over things that I have too. Although I'm thinking to myself, I know nobody's going to want my things, they'll throw them away, but I like them right now. So I'm not ready to get rid of things.
Yeah.
But my question to you has to do with, I play a lot of music and it's really helped me get through challenging times, so I can relate to what you're saying. Is have you been able to play with other people? Like I'm thinking, like for example, I play recorder, and there are lots of people who play recorder and gamba, sound lovely together. Have you been able to find somebody like sort of on your level that you can play with? Because it makes it even more meaningful than sitting and playing, with just your teacher.
Yeah, I do play duets with my teacher, but I also have a good friend who's a violinist. Unfortunately, she lives in Syracuse, but I visit her, or she visits me at least once a year. She's an old friend. So when we get together, we always play violin and gamba duets. And she is very accomplished. And I think it's better to play with someone who can play. At least one of the people has to be a good player. She's really patient with me, and she enjoys it tremendously. And she occasionally gives me a suggestion, because she's played strings for so long, and we have a great time. And then over the holidays, my family from California, my daughter and her 3 kids and husband, were here, and my younger granddaughter has played piano. She'll be 16 next week, but she started playing when she was 6. So she's really dedicated, and she's not conservatory material, but she's a very good pianist. And so she and I played a couple of duets. I sent her some stuff that
Thank you.
that
That's
was
wonderful.
really
Try
fun.
doing it because I think that's just going to make it so much more pleasurable for you
Yeah,
too.
it is. Yeah, I like playing with people very much. In fact, I started learning the gamba because I hoped I could play with people, and that's fairly complicated. And there's one of our guests here today, Nancy, and she plays piano, and we keep meaning to get together, but I haven't found any music yet. I haven't put my mind to it, so we'll probably be playing. So that's another thing that you get out of bed in the morning for it. Oh, today's the day I'm going to play some music with somebody.
Jean.
Hi, Kitty.
Hello.
I got to read your
Oh,
book
hi.
finally.
Hi, Jean.
I'm not quite done with it, but it is awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
I'm not musically inclined. I played the drums in school. I was kind of kicked out of the band, but anyway, I loved it. I felt like I was learning how to play something worthwhile,
It's never too
So
late.
thank you. Oh, yes, it is. It is. It's way too
I'm gonna
late.
take your word for that.
But thank you, and thanks for your
Thank
reading.
you.
It was
Thank you. I'm
wonderful to
glad you were
relearn
here.
some of those
That's
things
great.
that I had read that you had written because you're such a beautiful writer.
Oh, thank
So
you. Thank you.
thanks, appreciate it a lot. Gonna see
Uh,
you soon.
Yeah, we'll get together. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I had been talking about this with Sandy before we started, and just because you appreciate other books of mine, I just wanted to show you my novel about Amherst. It's called Amity Street. It takes
Oh
place
gosh, yeah.
in 1892, and
Wow.
it's got a wonderful
Yeah.
cover with an old map of Amherst on it.
Nice, nice.
It's a historical novel, and it's really fun, especially if you live in Amherst. But
Is that that's not your newest one, is it, or is it?
no, I don't know what year. This is sometime in the 21st century. When did I publish this? Linda did this.
I would know.
2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I have not read that one. No, that's great.
Well, oh, Kitty, could you tell us where people can purchase your book?
yeah, you can
Minutes?
buy it any place where books are sold, as they say. I would appreciate it if you bought it from someplace that isn't Amazon. But they certainly, they have it at Amherst Books, they have it at Odyssey Bookstore in South Hadley, and it's on every online, Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble would have to order it. They don't keep it in their store, but yeah, it's just any place you would buy a book. It's just another book.
Oh, good. Okay. Any last questions or comments from anybody?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, Kitty, thank you.
I would want to say one thing just as a final thought for me, because I think it's really important, and you hit on it. And you said it was sort of like, I'm thankful to be alive, not taking for granted each morning I wake up and realize I'm still kicking, breathing, looking out at the nature, at the trees. I love it. And you referenced how important having a positive attitude, which is that's an example of having a positive attitude when you wake up out of the deep dark dreams of life and think positively about the new day. And I think you said something really important for those of us that used to play piano when we were 6 to 10 or 12 and quit, and then might sit down at it and poke around. And you said, you got to relinquish perfection,
Yeah.
which, I mean, it's okay to fail. Like, it's just okay to do whatever you're doing. I love that messaging that you shared. I think that's really healthy. And I do think there's been a lot written, as you pointed out, that it's a contributing variable to longer life.
That's
Just
what they say. Yeah.
being that way, thinking that way. And, we're all looking for the little things we can do, and that's one of them. So thank you for kind of messaging that. That was really.
That came across it. It's, when we were younger, it was important to excel or to try really hard, to try to do things well, because you had endless time to do them. If you really enjoyed playing the piano, you'd have 50 years of playing it, and you don't have that when you're older. You have to ration your time. I could become, although I mean, there's no chance I would, but I could become fanatical about the gamba and play, practice for 8 hours a day. But I've only got X number of years. Why do I want to? I don't. So as you get older, yes, I'm agreeing with you. And that's more so as you get older. You don't have to go that route, just play for half an hour, 10 minutes, whatever is good.
Well, thank you, Kitty, and thank you for everybody for showing up. And this is one reason why I love Amherst Neighbors so much. There's always something new and exciting going on, and we especially appreciate it, Kitty, that you're a member.
Oh, thanks. I'm not terribly active, but I've certainly gotten some good things from.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you,
Thank you.
Carolina.
Thank you, Kitty.
Thank you all.
Everybody have a great evening.
You too.
Yep, you too.
Thank you.